Great, thank you very much. So first of all, just let me share my slides. I assume that I'm doing that on this one. So um, I shall do that. Give me a second. So as Mark said, I'm Steph Noyce. I'm head of money and digital at Clarion Futures, which is the charitable arm of the Clarion Housing Group. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. First of all, apologies for not being there in person. I really hoped I was going to be, but things transpired against me this morning. We're just starting our journey into smoking cessation and embedding it into service delivery. And I thought I'd spend the next sort of 10 minutes or so telling you about what we're planning to do and how we've got there. But before I start, I think there's two really important things for me that I want to make you all aware of. Firstly, this piece of work has been completely driven by frontline staff. They identified both an opportunity and a need for us to do more on this agenda. And it's their passion and their commitment that's been essential in driving this forward. And secondly, very sadly, I don't have any results to share with you yet because we're yet to start actual physical delivery. We are hopefully weeks away from doing it. But as ever, when you take on a brand new piece of work, it can take longer than you hope and you envisage to get things actually off the ground. Now, as we move through that journey and into our pilot, as we get results and as we get action, I will more than happily share information, warts and all, as to how it works in practice. So if anybody's interested in learning more further down the line, please do stay in touch and I will more than happily share. So I thought it would be helpful to start by telling you a little bit more about Clarion Futures. So let me change the slide. There we go. So Clarion Futures, as I said, is the charitable foundation within the Clarion Housing Group. We're an independent charity and we work with Clarion Housing residents and the wider community to make a difference. It's quite a broad remit, but you'll see in a second how we hone that down. Clarion has around 300,000 residents across 170 local authority areas. And like all housing association residents, our tenants are often disproportionately disadvantaged. So those disadvantages, sorry, cover the sort of the whole spectrum: unemployment, poverty, disability, all of those sorts of things are covered across our tenant base. Now, sorry, we have 4 strategic objectives, which you can see on the screen there. And the most important ones to focus on in today's conversation is financial stability and well-being. That's where we're fitting this smoking cessation agenda. And we deliver those 4 strategic objectives through 5 integrated services: communities, money, digital support, jobs and training, and strategic partnerships. And money, that's where I'm going to focus today. Although I have already started conversations with our other teams, particularly the jobs and training team, to see how they may be able to replicate what we're trying to do within the money service. So this is a little bit more about the Clarion Futures money service, and again, where we're fitting that and why we're doing the smoking cessation work. Clarion Futures money was set up in 2009, and it is a telephone-based money guidance service. So although we've evolved a huge amount of time, a huge amount over that period of time since we first set up, we really stuck to our core principle of delivering money guidance support that facilitates sustainable change. We are not a crisis service. So we work with individual households to find long-term solutions to their financial difficulties. So that might be securing more income, it might be changing behaviour, accessing debt advice, or whatever else, or whatever combination of support is relevant to their individual circumstances. Today, we've got 17 advisors supporting more than 4,000 households every year. And although that support is provided by phone, we work really closely with tenancy specialists right across the Clarion Housing Group to make sure that we can engage households who maybe can't engage through a telephone service, but need more face-to-face. So we work with very, very capable groups and very sorry, I can hear talking coming back at me. Was that?
No, you're fine.
You're all right, good, no, that's fine. Sorry. So yeah, so we work with a huge range of customers, and where customers have got very complex or very entrenched needs, we'd use tenancy specialist officers to support further with what we're doing. So we integrate fuel poverty advice, and we take coaching and motivational interviewing approach to help individuals move from where they are now to a much more sustainable financial position. And every case centres around an individual needs assessment and an in-depth budget assessment. Now that's really important, because that budget conversation automatically raises the subject of smoking. Now, either because the customer is very honest at the front and says, I spend X amount per week on smoking, or where we pick up a budget doesn't quite balance, and those officers probe about why it doesn't balance, and then smoking falls out of that conversation. Now, historically, the housing sector, I've been in the housing sector for 25 years, and all of that time, this thing about smoking and encouraging people to give up smoking has bubbled. And every time I know that conversation's come out, there's a real shying away from it. The comeback, the sort of the comments back are things like, we don't do health. It's not our place. It's too judgmental to say people should give up. It's too paternalistic or maternalistic, depending on who you're talking to. So it's a real barrier, it's a real red flag topic that the sector's tended to shy away from. So a number of years ago, when this money guidance team and the money guidance service could get people to a point where their budgets could balance, we could avoid the smoking thing, we could just stay away from it. But increasingly, and unsurprisingly, my officers on the front line are talking to households where the only flex in their budget is smoking or another addiction. And we had two officers in particular who were really frustrated that they're talking to tenants, they're not able to make ends meet, they're not able to eat properly, they're not able to pay their rent or whatever basic needs they have. And they were saying, I'm smoking, but I'd like to stop, but I can't because I can't get help, or I can't because I can't afford, you know, the options out there, and the waiting list is too long to get free help, and all those barriers to those individuals accessing the support they need to cut down or give up smoking, which would then resolve a fair portion of their budget problems. And those officers, when they asked that question, felt completely disempowered when a customer came back and said, yes, I want to do something, can you help? It's not our service to help. We don't have those skills. And because we work over such a large geographical area, we can't possibly have relationships with all of those local providers to link our customers into local services. So the two officers concerned were really frustrated. They really wanted to do something to make a change. And then they raised it. They said, actually, what can we be doing here? And we had an internal conversation, just myself and the money guidance team. And it wasn't a huge leap from saying, actually, right now, we will give you, quite happily, we will give a customer 150 quid in food vouchers. When that's spent, it's spent. End of story. If we spent that 150 quid or whatever helping you to engage with quitting smoking services, that could save money off your budget week on week on week. And that's incredibly meaningful. Obviously, there's all the other benefits as well.
I'm giving you a 2-minute warning.
Cool,
Thank
no
you.
problem at all. Thank you. So that could have a really long-term impact for those households. So we're not the experts at all. So the next thing that we did was engage with our colleagues at ASH and say to them, actually, what would you do in this situation? And they really helped us articulate what it was we were looking for. We needed something that was national, that took advantage of the fact that smoking came up naturally in conversations with our clients, and that enabled us to almost hand off the client to a third party if they said, yes, I want help. We knew we needed to act fast when someone said yes, and we couldn't do that at the moment. And it was very clear early on that the NCSCT very brief advice model lent itself really well to what we were trying to do. So when we launch, which I hopefully isn't that far away, we will be aiming to every conversation that we have with a customer where smoking comes up, there will be a quit attempt prompt by that officer who's working with the individual. And one of three things will happen off the back of it. Yes, I want to quit. And yes, I'd like to take advantage of the relationship you have with the Smoke-Free app. In which case, that individual will get up to 6 months free enhanced support through the Smoke-Free app and 4 weeks free smoking cessation aids. Or the individual will say, I'm not sure, or Smoke-Free app isn't right for me, in which case we will signpost them to local provision, and they will then take that forward themselves, or they'll say, no, I'm not interested, in which case we just get on with the normal service that we provide. And that is the end of our intervention. We've managed to stick really neatly within the boundaries of what we do and with what we are skilled and equipped to provide to deliver, but we're able to give that trusted handover to a professional when someone wants support and someone wants to engage. So where are we now? Back February last year, seems like such a long time ago, we started this journey. And it was fascinating because there was a really heated debate across those 17 officers. They all felt they wanted to do something, we should do something. But a lot of them were really, really uncomfortable with them actually doing it. Some were really pro and really comfortable, others weren't. Into the summer, we met and commissioned partners. We really learned how to articulate what we were trying to achieve, why. And we brought Oxford University on board to evaluate the effectiveness of the approach. Now, the pilot's not long enough to do real in-depth analysis on what happens to the individual customer, but there's a real focus in that evaluation on how acceptable the approach is to the delivery officers who are going to be doing it. Because if they can't have those conversations comfortably and confidently, the approach is never going to work. We hope, of course, that it is successful and we do get take up. We want to support 120 individuals engage with us on this. If we get that good engagement, then we hope that we'll be able to do some more in-depth work after that. Going back to the point very quickly, Jim, I know you want to move on, but just going back to that bit about the housing sector being really reluctant to engage on this agenda. When I presented to our board to get sign-off, I presented the programme through a budget, and I showed that actually the majority of our customers have no space in their budget at all, apart from this line about smoking. And when I focused on that, they suddenly weren't so reluctant to get involved, and that's how come we've got sign off to do the pilot. Jim, if I leave it there, does that help fit with your time?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Stephanie. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's have a round of applause. Thank you. Really powerful example.